So I'm going to speak to about WALANT. So what exactly is WALANT? WALANT is wide awake, local anesthesia, and no tourniquet. Of all these three better have some advantages if we are going to practice it and talk about it. So what are the advantages? Advantage of wide awake is, of course, it doesn't cause much hemodynamic alterations the way general anesthesia or Bayer's block would cause. You have patient cooperation all through the procedure, including positioning. You don't need an assistant to hold in supination, pronation. You just tell the patient, aisa rakho, and patient will turn. And then, angutha baju mein karo, and patient will, that kind of cooperation you can enjoy. You can keep talking to the patient about variety of things, which will help in your future treatment and rehabilitation. Post-op instructions start on table. That really, really works. Patient is very, very attentive at that particular time because they are anxious in the operation theater. And about the stability of your work, the fracture fixation that you may have done or the range of motion that you have achieved, all those reinforcements can happen on table, as I will give you in some examples. And of course, no fasting required. Patient walks out of the operation theater into the room and then immediately can have tea, coffee, breakfast, whatever. Though these patients do fast preoperatively at least for a couple of hours, just in case we want to abandon this and go give sedation or convert it into a full anesthesia for any reason. Important thing is this is wide awake. I've seen the anesthetist walking into the operation theater and saying, should I sedate the patient? I said, don't sedate. The whole idea of wide awake is that I want the patient cooperation. So please do not sedate. Flip side is patient is listening to your conversation. So you have to be very aware about what you're talking. Sometimes we might forget that patient is listening to us. Advantages of local anesthesia, of course, it's great for poor anesthesia risk. Just last year during COVID, I operated on my 80-year-old father-in-law, abdominal aneurysm, cardiac arrhythmia, all those things, and he had a distal radius fracture. I could manage this surgery purely under local anesthesia for him. Less monitoring is required, not that it should not be done, but it is less required. You require far less resources because there is no halothane required, no isoflurane required, no monitoring required. As I said, you can keep demonstrating things to the patient on table. Post-op limb positioning. How are you going to maintain the limb in the ward? That can be mentioned. And of course, what I've noticed is post-op pain relief is great. Because the patient registers that I'm moving and there is no pain, that positive reinforcement causes much less need of post-operative analgesia. Another thing is, as a surgeon, you are more conscious of the fact that this is local anesthesia. Your retractions are more delicate. Your handling is probably more delicate. At least that happens with me. And therefore, there is less soft tissue reaction and edema and less pain. Flip side is, when you retract, sometimes the patient will feel tingling because you touch the nerve. There is some pressure of the retraction that is felt. Remember, there is no muscle relaxation. So the kind of close reduction that Dr. Mahapatra wants you to do, you may not be able to do very easily. Last part is no tourniquet. Again, advantage is no proximal anesthesia required, no sedation required, one less resource. Important thing, no restriction on operative time. Typically, for most tourniquet surgeries, 90 minutes is ingrained in our mind for upper limb. Here, you can go on and operate for 3 hours without any problem. This anesthesia, even though it's just plain lignocaine with adrenaline, works very well for 3.5 hours. No tourniquet-related complications, and if any one of you who hasn't had a tourniquet-related complication, I feel very sorry to tell you, one day you're going to have one. Okay, it's a law of averages. Good part is bleeders are readily identifiable. So you catch them, coagulate them, so there's less post-operative hematoma and less swelling. It's a little bloody field because of all these things. So if you are used to operating under tourniquet, this can unnerve you a little bit in the beginning. So this is a case which I would myself would not have convinced myself 5 years ago to do under local anesthesia, but I did. This is what is done. This is lignocaine adrenaline. Take full 30 ml of lignocaine adrenaline. and then dilute it with equal amount of saline, and then you need to add around 0.5 cc, 0.45 cc of adrenaline. Now, why all these things? That is because we need a particular way of preparing this solution. We need certain concentration. So what we want is typically for a 60 kilogram adult, what we want is about 1% lignocaine and 1 in 1 lakh adrenaline solution. That is what we want for injection. And the dose that is available is about allowed us is 7 milligram per kg. So around 42 ml of solution is required. So how do we prepare this solution? What we have in the operation theater is 2% lignocaine with 1 in 2 lakh adrenaline. And what we have in the glass vial is 1 in 1 lakh, 1 in 1000 adrenaline. So now how do we do the jugglery? How do we do the jugaad? So you first take 30 ml of 2% lignocaine, add 30 ml saline to it. So it is 100% dilution. So now what you have is 60 ml of 1% lignocaine and 1 in 4 lakh adrenaline. That is about 15 micrograms of adrenaline. Now if to this solution, if you add about 0.45 ml of 1 in 1000 adrenaline, you are adding about 45 micrograms of adrenaline. So that you saw me adding that. Now what we have is 60 micrograms of adrenaline in 60 ml solution. That is 1 in 1 lakh solution of adrenaline. This gives you 60 ml solution of 1 in 1 lakh adrenaline with 1% lignocaine, and that is what is safe to inject. 60 ml is sufficient even for operating a distal end radius. So this was the case that I will just show you the part where we start injecting. Always use a very thin needle for injecting, which is 25 gauge needle. Use a 1.5 inch needle. This is the fracture, quite an unstable fracture. So I was aware of the jugglery that I may have to do during surgery. The point I'm trying to make here is even for such fracture and all that thing that will be required for treatment of this fracture, it is still possible to use WALANT. Now always mark the territory that you want to anesthetize. Remember, we are going to inject only in the subdermal plane. We are not injecting deep. So mark a territory and raise a wheel and keep advancing your needle in that wheel. You can see the blanching of the skin where the adrenaline is getting injected. Okay, and you slowly cover that entire area using the solution that you have. If you want larger quantity of solution, you can simply dilute it more and give it enough time for it to act. It generally starts acting very well in about 15 to 20 minutes. And even if you wait for about 45 minutes or so, you get a very nice dense anesthesia. So you inject like this all through. It's very important that you go in a methodical fashion so that you have covered all the area. Then this one I am injecting in the fracture and the joint. I inject little bit in the hematoma and in the joint capsule. So so after injecting, this is what you will see, that the fracture is now become painless, and you can see the blanching on the skin. That area is nicely blanched. Another way of going about this is you can divide the area into certain zones. So you know 10 cc's for this zone, 20, so you don't run out of the solution. Okay, and that's the slight hematoma block. And then what I want you to, sorry, okay. Oh, I am technologically challenged. Okay, no, it's okay. Now what I want you to notice is I am doing exactly the same surgery that I would do under general anesthesia or under a block. There is no compromise on that. You ought to do as a surgeon what you ought to do, and you cannot make an excuse that because I am operating under local anesthesia, I will not do this or I will not do that. So you go ahead with exactly the same procedure that you would do, which is not a part of today's discussion. So I'm just going to run through this. I just want you to see all the jugglery that I'm doing. I'm using bone holding clamps. I have done a brachioradialis release already. You can see that the field is little bloody, which you don't have in tourniquet. Otherwise, everything you will be able to. And then the drilling happens. Exactly the same procedure that I would otherwise do. So that's the final fixation, closure, and then I'm ready to talk to the patient. the patient is moving the hands. I'm telling you how the rotation should be done. And then of course the flexion extension was also, and then he's still on table, and post-operative immediately he's told how to keep the hand, and this is I think day 3 post-op and little late post-op. The sutures are still on. The million-dollar question is whether a lignocaine adrenaline solution can be injected in the finger. This is where, and it can be. This is how I am injecting. You can see I'm not injecting at the neck of the metacarpal where we will inject in a deep tissue plane for a nerve block. I am injecting in the same subdermal, not subdermal, just under the dermis. Yeah, that's subdermal, not intradermal. Subdermal plane, and raising a wheel. The big difference between injecting around the digital nerve and this is, if you inject around the digital nerve, you'll still get a good block, but that will also lead to sympathetic blockade and a vasodilatation in the finger. And then the tourniquet becomes necessary. Here the whole idea being no tourniquet as well, because you do not have a proximal block. It is important that you inject around the small vessels where you are going to inject. And the interesting thing that you will notice is, you will see that the area where I want to incise and where I have injected is blanched, but the tip continues to be nice and pink. So this has not led to any vasoconstriction of the digital arteries. And therefore, unless you inject directly into the vessel, there is no fear of causing any complication. The problem will happen if you inject adrenaline in the vessel. Otherwise, just in the subcutaneous tissue, it can lead to transient tachycardia, and beyond that, nothing will happen. And the same patient, after he had a PIP joint contracture which was released. The release is done, and now I'm showing the patient that, look, your contracture has been released, and then I would want him to move. Look at his face. You will not see an iota of pain on his face. I'm asking him to move, demonstrating that there is a complete range. He had some flexion deformity because of an old injury which was released, and now I'm passively correcting it, telling him that this is possible. Don't tell me post-operatively that my release has not been done. So he has understood it, and then the cover goes back. And then the cover goes back. Okay. So if this is possible, a lot of things are going to be possible. All fractures and dislocations in the hand can be managed under WALANT, including a hemihymet arthroplasty, which is a good 2.5 hour surgery. All kinds of tendon repairs, tendon transfers are also possible. Tenolysis, this is wonderful because you can immediately check the effectiveness of your tenolysis. Small joint arthroplasty is possible. All types of contracture releases, this is great because you can tell the patient what you have done. Benign tumor excisions is wonderful, and even wrist arthroscopy. It is not suitable for small flaps in the hand because with adrenaline injection, you don't want to compromise on the circulation of the flap, or if typically after raising a flap, you always want to check the flap circulation, which you may not be able to check. Therefore, it is not suitable. It is probably not suitable for a nerve repair because nerve handling continues to give trouble. It's not suitable in children, and it's not suitable in a patient who has decided not to cooperate with you. Some small complications, there will be occasional tachycardia which typically settles down in about 90 to 100 seconds. That is the half-life of adrenaline washing out. You can develop reaction to the lignocaine, which is truly not a reaction to the lignocaine, but reaction to methylparaben, as Dr. Mahapatra told you. There is always a possibility of a vasovagal response because of the pinprick pain or patient anxiety. So you should, as a surgeon, you should anyway know basics of resuscitation, and I feel basic resuscitation should always be accessible. This is not something which you do in your OPD room, okay? And always secure an IV line just in case you have to give any resuscitative measures. So in summary, talking to the patient is important, preoperatively, during injection, intraoperatively, postoperatively. Choose your patient wisely. This requires an extraordinary cooperation from the patient, and never use local anesthesia as an excuse for doing inadequate job. You must do what you are set out to do. Thank you.